I'd like to call the November Poquoson City School Board meeting to order. And Marissa?
Katie Miller will lead us in the pledge. Katie is in Miss Cooper's 5th grade class. She loves to read, especially mystery books, and likes to make crafts. Katie played soccer for Poquoson Rampage. Her favorite subject is math, even when it's hard. She knows she wants to go to college someday, but is unsure what she wants to become.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fisher Demond will provide the inspirational reading. Fisher, also a 5th grader in Mrs. Cooper's class, will read The Continent by Amy A. Anderson. He plays guard and tackle for Poquoson Bulls football team. Fisher loves to fish with his dad on the Poquoson Flats. His favorite subject in school this year is geography, and he thinks he would like to be an oceanographer when he grows up.
To learn of the 7 continents, think of the letter A. And when you are down to one, the E will save the day. There's Africa, Asia, Australia, Antarctica too. The oceans run between them with their oceans deep and blue. There are also 2 Americas, North and South you see. Now we're coming to the end. Europe starts with an E.
That's great.
Good evening. My name is Tim Haddock. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Poquoson Elementary School. I'm joined by Martin A. Avery, also a 5th grade teacher. And my big job for tonight is just introduce the 6 students that we have here to discuss pumpkins across the curriculum. So we have Katie Miller and Fisher Dedman, who you've already met, Gunnar Phillips, Ollie Pasquay, Kayla Burness, and Gracie Trice.
Part of the new 5th grade geography curriculum is to review the continents and oceans. Mr. Smith saw an activity where pumpkins were painted up as globes. It's October, it's geography, it's fall, it's pumpkins. Why not? We checked with Dr. Wood for approval, and Mr. Smith stopped at a local vendor to see if they would be interested in helping. After giving us a discount, we were able to secure 35 pumpkins, 5 for each class. We enjoyed the painting activity and loved the creative way that we reviewed the continents and oceans.
We wondered, what will we do with all these pumpkins now that they are painted? We don't want them to go to waste. Our teachers knew just what to do. Launch them in the name of science.
Fifth Math Express was tasked with deciding what type of design would be best for launching pumpkins. We made some nice diagrams, but really the only difference between them was whether or not the machine was a trebuchet or a catapult. Mr. Haddock passed this information along to the other teachers, but couldn't leave our class discussions without a resolution. So we decided to have our own catapult day. The only problem was the more we discussed these machines, the more questions we encountered. We turned these thoughts into a project to be completed at home but tested at school.
We were given a week to build any catapult, trebuchet, or combination of the two. We could use any materials we wanted. The machines could be larger. The machines couldn't be larger than 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. Testing day involved cycling through 4 different stations: target, distance, height, and destruction. These challenged both the machine and the student. Testing day was a blast. We have reviewed the pros and cons of each design. We will have Catapult Day 2 right before winter break. We will be able to tweak our designs in order to achieve a higher score at the stations.
With the information that Mr. Haddock's students had gathered, Mrs. Cooper worked with her family to build one amazing catapult.
It was time to launch those pumpkins, but not so fast. Our teachers had lab sheets ready for us.
Step 1. How much do they weigh? First, we had to find the weight of each pumpkin. We had a student stand on a scale to get their weight, and they returned to the scale with the pumpkin, and we recorded their weight again. We found the difference between those two numbers to find each pumpkin's weight. We labeled each pumpkin and put them in order from largest to smallest.
Step 2. Form a hypothesis. We selected 5 pumpkins to record data for. We included a large, medium, and small pumpkin. Our teachers had us form a hypothesis to predict which pumpkins would go the farthest and shortest distance.
It was finally time for launching. We did the heaviest and lightest pumpkins first. We launched the pumpkins, then the teachers measured the distance that they went and announced the measurement for us to record.
When we finished launching the lightest and heaviest pumpkins, we stopped and thought about our data. We estimated how far the remaining pumpkins would go before we launched them.
Step 5. Launching the remaining pumpkins and recording the data. We launched the remaining pumpkins and recorded the distance of each one.
When all of the fun of launching pumpkins was over, we went back inside to do more math and science. We put all of our data on a chart and found the differences in our estimated and actual distances.
Step 7. Evaluating our data. Now that we had our data in front of us, we identified the pumpkins that actually went the shortest and longest distance, and then looked back at our hypothesis to see if it was correct.
Step 8. Drawing conclusions. Drawing a conclusion. We used our data to draw a conclusion and answered. Why did some pumpkins go farther than others? Overall, most of our small pumpkins went farther than our large pumpkins. Though we did have a couple of exceptions, we thought about why. Some answers. The people launching were stronger. We changed more than one variable at a time, so it was hard to have data that was reliable. Some pumpkins rolled and some smashed.
The reason. We found out that the heavier something is, the greater its gravitational pull. The larger pumpkins went a shorter distance because they were heavier.
What's next? Our teachers asked us to consider how we could change the experiment and test something different. Suggestions included having the same people launch it every time and put the launcher at the top of a hill.
Looks like a launcher if I've ever seen one.
Thank you very much. Mr. Haddock, Ms. Avery, thank you for setting that up. And students, you guys did a wonderful job. Did you learn anything? Did you have fun? It's pretty cool. Okay, that is awesome tying those two together. Y'all did a great job. If y'all can stick around for maybe 5 more minutes, we're going to take a short break, and we'd like to come out and talk to you a little bit. Okay, next up, do we have any additions or modifications to the agenda?
We have none.
Okay, and we'll go into recognitions. Dr. Parrish?
Yes, at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Doug Sproul, the director of our Islander Band, as well as our students, Daniel Dillon, Brandon Scalute, and Casey Wilson, to come forward to the podium. Well, we're excited this evening to be able to recognize our band. The Virginia Music Educators Association has an in-service conference each year during the weekend before Thanksgiving. Over 1,200 members of VMEA attend this conference each year, and that's for elementary schools all the way through to the college level. Along with workshops designed to help music teachers in the classroom, 2 or 3 bands are selected from the 311 high school bands in Virginia each year to perform. The Poquoson High School Symphonic Band has been chosen for this year's conference, which is being held at the Homestead in Hot Springs, Virginia on November 22nd. This is by far the highest honor that the Virginia Music Educators Association and the Virginia Band and Orchestra Directors Association can bestow upon a band program in the state of Virginia. The selection to perform not only recognizes the outstanding band program at Poquoson High School, but also the quality of the entire music program in Poquoson City Schools, along with the combined efforts of all of our music educators. The performance will be at the Homestead. It's free and open to the public and begins at 12:30 p.m. I want to personally say that I had the absolute pleasure of last week getting to see our band perform the program that they will perform at the Homestead, and I thought it was incredible. It certainly made me proud to be part of a school division that has a band that played like that. And I do want to highlight Brandon Scalute because he did an incredible trumpet solo throughout one of the pieces that was played. So I have no doubt that all of the music educators in Virginia are going to absolutely enjoy the program you present this Friday, and I thank you for all the hard work that you've done to bring this honor to our city. So thank you so much for everything, and we're so very, very proud of all of you. Absolutely.
On behalf of the Poquoson Islander Band, we would like to thank you for your support through preparing this event, and we would like to present to you in our appreciation our programs that we will be handing out on Friday for our performance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you very much.
So again, thank you. Join me in congratulating our band for all of their hard work. These are just a few representatives of literally hundreds of students. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you guys are going to do a great job and represent the school system well. Mrs. Sproul, I would like to personally thank you for your leadership in the music arts, and you just always rise to the challenge, and it's fun to watch you. You know, I had a son that come through 4 years and loved every minute of it, and you just do a wonderful job, and I thank you for your work with the kids and for the school system. So thank you very much, Mr. Sproul. And at this time, we'll take a short break.
Is your daughter here? Which one is she? She's right there with us. Oh my goodness, look at all that hair.
and I just said no, different division, different, yeah. But it's funny, because I feel like I'm finally figuring it out, and now he's graduating. So.
Good stuff.
Crowd waved its way out of here. It's back to the usual suspects.
Okay, next up we have presentations and reports, and we'll start with the financial update from Mr. Bowen.
Good evening, Dr. Carter, school board members, and Dr. Parrish. For the finance update this evening, I wanted to share with you our most recent information regarding the FY15 budget. Since our last meeting, the state has released two very important reports, which are significant budget drivers. Let me begin with the Virginia retirement system. The VRS Board of Trustees released its recommended contribution rates for the next biennium. The VRS rate is projected to increase almost 3%. Now, the General Assembly could adopt a rate that's different than what the VRS Board of Trustees has recommended. However, if we look back at 2011 and 2012, at that time, the General Assembly adopted rates that were historic lows. And they did this because the state and the school divisions needed to balance their budgets. So where we are right now is the state and school divisions have a lot of catching up to do. So with that being said, we don't anticipate, or it's not expected, that the General Assembly will change this rate or have significant changes to this rate. Also released was the Local Composite Index, or LCI. This information came out this past Friday. And unfortunately, the news for PCPS is that our LCI has increased yet again. The increase is about 0.75%. Now, this is the third consecutive biennial budget increase for LCI for Poquoson. And one other point of interest is that Poquoson had the highest increase in LCI from this most recent increase of all school divisions in Hampton Roads. Also, in our current budget, we have one-time state funding that expires at the end of this fiscal year. Continued challenge for Poquoson is the decline in student enrollment. From FY13 to FY14, our current budget, we've experienced a loss of 53 students. Looking into 2015, we're anticipating a loss of another 24 students. And lastly, there's continued uncertainty with the federal budget. The federal sequester is still in place, and there are concerns that there could be a continued federal budget battle or shutdown in February 2014. So those are the significant issues that we know of right now, and I wanted to present those to you. This next slide, I just wanted to share with you, these are the potential budgetary impacts on just a few of those items. Now, the VR rate increase, this is an increase, additional cost to the school division. The LCI rate increase, however, is a little different. When the LCI rate increases, what that means is that the state tells us that if that rate increases, your local government can afford the cost, increase in cost of education. It doesn't necessarily translate that the local government is going to give you more money. What it does mean is that the state's definitely going to give you less money. So what we did is we just looked at the current calc tool that was provided by the Department of Education and applied that new rate to our current budget. And so we were estimating about $100,000 impact or loss in state revenue. And then the one-time state funding that's in our current budget is a little over $75,000. So before we even know what the governor releases in his budget, we can expect about a $500,000 loss going into FY15. So that's the information that we have at this point. The governor's budget is expected or scheduled to be released on December 16th. It'll be probably sometime after the holidays that we'll receive the details from the Department of Education on what those details mean and their impacts on K-12 education. And that's my report this evening.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have questions? I'm scared to ask for comments.
Can you move to the next slide with the good news?
Yeah.
That's what I was afraid of.
Mr. Bowen, has there been any indication from Richmond that the $500 million surplus that the state has might come back, some of that might come back into the education budget?
No indication at this point. I believe that money is actually earmarked for other areas in the budget, has already been earmarked for other areas in the budget besides K-12 education. So we don't anticipate any additional funds
Any of that.
as a result of that end-of-year surplus that the state experienced.
Okay. Anybody, anything?
And as I said, these are just the significant issues that we have. There are other issues that we will need to address as we move into January and at the end of January, things like health insurance, our contract increases, utility, possible utility increases. So this is not everything, but these are certainly the significant items that we wanted to just make you aware of as we move into December.
Okay. Are good? All right, thank you very much, sir. And next up, Mr. Pappas with the operations update.
Good evening, Chairman Carter, school board members, Dr. Parrish. In the area of transportation, PCPS staff is currently very hard at work preparing several new candidates to become substitute bus drivers. In order to do that, these candidates, of course, must get air brake certification and go through getting their learner's permit first, and then we here, PCPS staff, provide each candidate with 24 hours of classroom training, followed by 14 hours of behind-the-wheel hands-on training without students, after which they must pass a road test, and then lastly, they must complete an additional 10 hours of behind the wheel being observed with students, and then I have to hire them. In the area of safety, all of our substitutes, both new and current, will receive crisis management training based on our new protocols. In the area of food service, PCPS students at 3 of our 4 schools, the 4th one will happen this week, and in many cases, parents participated in a delicious Thanksgiving-style lunch in our cafeterias. The comments from students and parents have been very favorable. In the area of maintenance, we have made the conversion over to heat at the middle school and the primary school. The bleachers at both the home and away side of the competition field have now had handrails installed in the center of each aisle. Numerous positive comments were shared with the superintendent by fans. And lastly, work to repair the damage sustained by PMS that occurred Sunday morning is scheduled to be done tomorrow. And that concludes my report.
Questions, comments?
Sure, what damage was done on Sunday morning?
A car ran into the corner of the middle school and damaged the corner of the building, so we've had to do some work to replace bricks and et cetera.
Who is going to pay for that repair?
Insurance.
Our insurance or the person who hit the building?
Well, it will be covered by insurance. That becomes a function of who does or doesn't have insurance. We do have insurance.
And there was no other than the brick, there was no other structural damage for that harmed the integrity of the building. Is that correct?
I had a structural engineer come out, and we did a very, very minor structural support over the weekend to make sure that the one-floor joist, which was now free hanging, wouldn't cause a problem and that the schools were safe. Had that signed off with Dr. Parrish's assistance Sunday.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you very much, Mr. Pappas. And instructional update with Ms. Colley.
Good evening, Dr. Carter, members of the board, Dr. Parrish. My instructional update this evening focuses on reading and writing. You'll remember last year this time we talked a little bit about what we were doing in math instruction as a result of the new SOL test. Well, last spring, our students took new English SOL tests. And these tests, as we talked earlier this year, reflected the content of the new rigorous English SOL standards. And we reported then that our students did better than many in the state, but we also recognized the need to adjust some of our instruction to further raise student achievement, meet our students' needs. So tonight I'd like to share some of the ways our schools are responding to the rigor of the new English SOL. At Poquoson Elementary and Primary School, we continue to collaborate as we implement our K-5 literacy model. Our focus during this third and final year of the grant will be on intervention, and we're looking at ways to best help meet the needs of our struggling readers. Our professional development is focused on intervention, and teachers have also been setting aside time to plan together, to collaborate with one another, and they're even beginning to do some peer observations together so that they work to refine what they're doing in reading. At the middle and high schools, English teachers are piloting online writing evaluation tools. This is being done in an effort to provide even more meaningful feedback to our students as they're writing. In these programs, students not only receive online feedback from software, but they also receive timely feedback from teachers and then also from their peers. We also are making great use of Virginia Department of Education resources. Teachers from each school attended state-sponsored workshops this fall. Teachers are using online tools as well as statewide results to guide their instruction. And we're confident that all of these different activities and interventions together will help our students achieve at higher rates this year in English. That includes my instructional update, and I'd like to close by wishing the board a happy Thanksgiving next week. Enjoy it, and I appreciate your support, and I'm thankful for our board this year. And any questions you have?
Anybody?
All right.
Would you mind elaborating a little bit about the online writing evaluation tool? Does it give, how does that work?
Well, yes. There's two different tools that one's the middle school is piloting and one the high school is piloting, and it has lots of different functionalities, if you will. Students can submit their writing online, and it just makes it available for a wider audience. In other words, you're my peer, you can look at it. You're my teacher, you can look at it. And we can both provide feedback in draft and throughout the whole writing process. Then there are some components that are actually electronic that the teachers are looking at, and they include any number of word counting, sentence structure kind of things that actually can be done electronically. And those are things that we're just starting to dabble with because the SOL test is still graded by people. It's not graded by machines.
Right. Okay. That's really what I was after. I didn't know if the evaluation of the writing was done electronically or still by personnel.
Still, and even AP, and they're all graded by people still.
Okay. All right, great. Everybody good? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Cass, would you like to take us through the consent agenda, please?
Yes, the consent agenda tonight includes approval of minutes of October regular meeting and work sessions, approval of financial reports, approval of personnel action, authorization to change appropriation in accordance with the attached request. All four of these items have been enclosed tonight in the board packet.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Ms. McDowell, would you call for a vote, please?
Mr. Hux?
Aye.
Ms. Whitaker?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner? Aye. Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Mr. Cass?
Aye.
Chairman Carter?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 6-0.
And next, we'll move into other matters for consideration. And on our agenda tonight is consideration of approval of the PCPS School Board 2013 legislative agenda. It's a little bit different from what we've done in the past. The board in its work session over the last couple of months have been discussing a couple of items, whether or not we wanted to sign on with various resolutions, one of which had to do with the OEI, which is the Opportunity Educational Institution. And, you know, one of the local school systems has a lawsuit against the state for that, saying that it's unconstitutional. So we discussed that. We also discussed the resolution that came about talking about revising testing. And so we kind of batted that back and forth. And what we decided to do was to take a more proactive approach and to draft a document that we will, when approved, send up to Richmond saying, these are the things that we feel the Poquoson City Schools feels is important that you should consider legislatively. And so we're going to discuss that tonight, and please feel free to have your comments. And the first one has to do with budget, of course, and a couple of things there. Dr. Parrish, would you like to sum up the budget if you are okay with that? You've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. What this does is summarize where we've been with budget, the fact that we've cut almost $5 million out of our budget in the last 5 years, and a reminder that our total budget is only $19.9 million. And that SOQ funding was reduced by 20%, and we've cut 46.5 positions during the course of the last 5 years, with over 20 of them being teaching positions. The others were in the area of administration to include school board office staff, as well as in the area of operations. We have seen, as was indicated by the surplus that was available in this summer that you referenced in the earlier question, that the economy has started to turn around. It's still doing so slowly, but now what we are starting to have conversations about is why can't we now look at providing some additional funding to K-12 education. We've seen information where K-12 education has seen a larger percentage cut than other areas, and if there is monies available, can they be provided to help offset some of the cuts that we've had? Certainly the news that you saw from Mr. Bowen here, if there is a VRS rate increase of 3% for school divisions across the state, it would be helpful if there could be some additional funding in other areas to offset that. So that's the reason really for this request. We do mention in here the fact that lottery dollars, a lot of people believe that lottery dollars are actually supplementing school budgets. What's happened the last 5 years is they supplanted funds that used to come out of the general fund. And so if we had a bad lottery year, it could mean that we would lose funding during the course of that year. Also reference here to the SOQ funding that we've talked about, restoring it to where it needs to be. It's been cut by 20%. And finally, the support staff cap that was actually put in place 5 years ago. It was an arbitrary number that was selected so they could reduce funding to schools. That support staff cap supports things like bus drivers, paraeducators, data people. Certainly we're doing a lot more with data now. So we really can't run our schools without support staff, and we need our support staff to be doing some of the work that if we don't have them, teachers do, and that takes away from instructional time. So that summarizes essentially what is proposed to you as your request for the budget in terms of going to legislators.
Okay, so for the public, what we have is a little bit of background information, and then the request to the legislators is, Poquoson City School Board requests that the General Assembly restore funding to K-12 public education. Lottery dollars should no longer supplant general funds, but instead should supplement the funding as was done in the past. The support staff cap should be lifted. Schools need support staff such as teacher aides, bus drivers, custodial staff, clerical staff, data analysis, school social workers, etc., to ensure that schools can operate efficiently and meet all the needs of the students. Additionally, SOQ funding should be restored as part of the re-benchmarking process. The re-benchmarking process was based on the reduced funding and does not accurately depict the costs associated with managing schools. Finally, if additional funding is not provided to public education, the General Assembly should refrain from passing additional unfunded mandates for school. So in essence, they're chopping us at both ends. They're cutting our funding, and the other end, they're saying, oh yeah, by the way, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and we're not going to give you dollars for that either. So, Board, open it up to your comments or questions there.
I'm particularly pleased to see the unfunded mandate, that last sentence, that refrain from passing unfunded mandates. Would it also be appropriate to add to that sentence, and examine past unfunded mandates to provide relief? If we cannot get the budget where we need it to be, there needs to be some kind of relief so we can do our job of fiscally trying to provide a budget to provide a proper education to our young people. Just a suggestion. I don't know how the board feels about that. I know there has to be some mandates out there currently that somebody could take a look at and maybe provide some relief.
Well, a good example of that is the state passed legislation that all teachers, personnel in the buildings have to be CPR certified, yet they didn't provide funding to offer school systems training. So that's just one example, and there have been numerous examples over the years that have come to light. Does anybody have issues with that? Having them go back and...
No, I think that's a good addition.
I think so too. I like that.
Can I ask a quick question? Who gets our legislative package? Is it just our representatives, or does it go to everyone?
It's depending on who you would like to send it to. Certainly, I'd recommend we send it to our legislators, but it could be sent to others. It could be once committee chairs are confirmed, you might want to send it to the chair of the committees on each side of the Senate and the House that would do the work in this area. That might be a recommendation with a cover letter.
And I think in the past, we've appealed to our citizens, and hopefully people watching tonight, if they have friends in the House or Senate and other areas, that they could pass this information along, because it's not only helpful for us, it's helpful for the entire Virginia's school system. So please, out there, pass it along.
Are we okay with that? Does that sound like a pretty good plan?
And just sorry to interrupt, but to help with Mr. Cass' idea, we could post this on our website so it's very accessible to our parents and community members so they could use it to speak to legislators.
All right, let's go to the next one, which is the testing system. This is a hot topic recently. We've had the SOLs have been in place for over 2 decades. They've been updated, but are still multiple choice tests. I know there have been some improvements there over the last few years. They take 34 SOL tests from grades 3 through 12. Okay, they're now being used to measure student growth, despite the fact that they were never developed to do so. Okay, so the request that the board is putting forward is Poquoson City School Board requests that the General Assembly pass legislation to allow for a revision to the current state testing program. The revision should allow assessment experts from throughout the Commonwealth and country to identify a new assessment model that will accurately measure growth and ensure all students in Virginia are college and career ready. Board members believe schools should be held accountable, but through the use of a new assessment program. Any comments here on the testing?
What was the original purpose of the SOLs?
It really was to measure they're used to measure what students know on the given day they take the test. So did they master what the standards of learning? Did they know them? Are they able to do them depending on the standard on a given day when they take the test? That's why the tests were created. Then the data from that was used to determine whether or not schools should be accredited by the state of Virginia. Then when the No Child Left Behind Act came along, the same test results were then used to meet the federal requirements. The growth measure is an issue because the new law, which is your next item on your agenda, grading schools with an A to F, requires that growth, student growth be measured and included in the grades. These tests don't measure student growth. They were never
they were never designed to do so. In fact, a student caps out on the test. So if you have a student who gets 600, which is a perfect score one year, and they get 600 the next year, they don't show any growth because they were perfect in the score. That hurts a school then because there was no growth shown, even though they can't show growth. So there are measurements out there where students don't cap. Even though they do well, they can continue to show growth in what they've learned from one year to the next or from the start of a year to another year. Additionally, you see much more talk about being college and career ready. When we look at career ready, some of the tests we've talked to you about, the industry certifications, there are tests out there that really test our students ready for specific careers, and the SOLs aren't tied to that at all. They're measuring specific content.
And also, way back when, my understanding, and please jump in if I'm in error, I guess the state of Virginia was looking at possibly adopting the Common Core curriculum, and they adopted the SOL in lieu of the Common Core curriculum. And back then, if I recall, the test for graduation was at something like a 6th grade level. So the way I see the SOLs, and I think they've served their purpose, I think you won't find a teacher out there or an administrator in the school system who doesn't believe that you need a certain standard, everybody, if you're going to give them a diploma. However, it almost appears to me that the SOLs were implemented to be a minimum measure. If you're going to graduate from a high school in the state of Virginia, you have to meet this minimum criteria. The state has put so much emphasis on the SOLs that what used to be the minimum criteria that a student needed to gain in order to graduate high school has now become the bar. Okay, that's what you're shooting for. You're shooting to pass the SOL test. There's so much emphasis placed on the SOL test that it almost appears to me that what used to be the bare minimum is now the bar that everybody's shooting for, and there's very little freedom in the classroom for teachers to push their students beyond that because they have crammed so much into a finite amount of time that it's all they can do to get the information taught in those 180 days to get the students proficient enough to do well enough to pass those SOLs. So.
Well, the only comment I might make is I'd really love to see our teachers be able to teach what they'd like to teach. They have, proficiency in content areas. They should have academic freedom to teach the content the way they feel they should. And we're way overdue for that.
Well, I think tonight was a perfect example of what teachers can accomplish if they're given the and they need time. They need time. And they can come up with creative lessons like we saw tonight. They had a great time and they learned things. And I don't know, but I am in total support of encouraging state legislators to review what we test, how much we test, how often we test, and the weight that we put on these particular tests. So.
Has there been conversation recently about this with the State Department of Education?
There has been, and actually this is really appears to be very much a bipartisan issue. You've seen legislators from both sides of the aisle, for lack of a better word, have come out and said we really need to look at reforming the SOL testing system. Both gubernatorial candidates had that in their education platform. So we do see legislators talking about setting up some sort of commission that would likely study this. There's been a group of folks representing of all educational associations for about the last 9 to 10 months. It's already started some meetings to say what could this look like. So I've certainly heard it from our community. Certainly heard parents, especially when they realized, we've been talking a lot about the fact that there's 34 tests from 3rd grade through 12th grade, the amount of testing done that I have a sense our community is interested in seeing some changes to the testing system. So I believe that we're going to see this movement through the General Assembly, but it certainly doesn't hurt to let legislators know, we agree with what we seem to be hearing from you all. So.
Do you know if there's going to be any legislation introduced?
Yeah, I believe that there will be legislation introduced. Part of that may be asking for the commission to study it. Because it's come out in the platform of both parties, we believe we're going to see, and we as educators are having conversations with legislators about this, but we believe it will come out. It hasn't, bills could be dropped as of yesterday. None have dropped in yet, but we know there's conversations, and there are legislators meeting with superintendents across the state, having discussions about it.
You really addressed what I had written down about this, that I think the legislation should focus on conducting the study or providing the commission, because as we know, the wheels of government, any legislation that we try to change is not going to work its way through this next year, because I don't think we can, as a Commonwealth, quickly move through that very large issue in just this session. So could we sort of maybe change if everybody agrees that we conduct a study or they appoint the commission? Because that would ensure some action, at least in a year, hopefully.
Right.
Because if they don't, and nothing goes through, and they don't appoint a commission,
Yeah, I think it would be easy because really we got at that with the revision should allow assessment experts from throughout the Commonwealth and country to identify, like you could just put in the country through the work of a commission to identify a new, and then go on with the rest of it.
I sort of had it up in the first sentence, request that the General Assembly appoint a study or commission to allow for revisions to the current state testing program. Because we said pass legislation, it looks like we already know what we want, which we do, but we all know that the experts have to bless it.
And we want it to be well thought out. So we'll add that to that first sentence.
Because we want to be accountable.
Right.
Do we know what
That's
other
right.
localities are saying when they're, have we seen anybody else's legislative package? Or?
I've seen some have actually passed that actual resolution that you saw. A number of them have just passed that, which was a much longer version to get at this. So consistently, I think at least 40 or so, or as of a few weeks ago, had passed the actual resolution. Others, like you, are looking at putting it in a legislative agenda rather than that. Most school divisions, school boards this month are passing their agenda. So by the end of this month into early December, you should see those. They're just not all publicized to other superintendents.
Are they having, do you know if they have wording about passing legislation versus appointing a commission? Or I hate to limit ourselves, I hate to just take out past legislation. It would be kind of nice to appoint a commission or pass legislation, something like that. I hate to just totally limit us.
Yeah. Appoint a commission and draft and pass legislation.
And consider passing legislation. Something, I don't know, something like that. I just hate to.
No, that's a good point. I mean, you might as well put it all in there.
And I would support that. I just wanted to make sure we didn't come up empty and have nothing.
Absolutely.
If they don't have a commission or study.
So you'll want it to read that the General Assembly appoint a commission and pass legislation to allow for a revision? Because that legislation could read, we're allowing for revision, but this commission's going to do its work. I mean, it could be
We'll let you wordsmith that.
Okay, thank you.
Good there. Say anything about if you like your current assessment system, you'll be able to keep it. All right, let's go to the A through F grading system, and Dr. Parrish alluded to this a little bit earlier. It is very narrow in the criteria by which they will assign an A through F. And Dr. Parrish, do we even have what specifically that criteria is?
Well,
at this point?
the State Board of Education is scheduled to pass the criteria tomorrow, although a number of educators in school division, including us, have requested that they delay passing of the criteria, because with what we've had to work with, it's very complex. Again, we're very concerned about the fact that they're using growth measures from an assessment that was never designed to provide growth measures. And we've had difficulty getting clear answers related to some of their criteria when we speak with people at the Department of Education. So if the criteria is passed by the Board of Education tomorrow, they may make changes to it as they're discussing it, then we'll certainly have a better sense of what it is. I will tell you, calculating it as divisions across the state have found based on the criteria is very challenging. So again, we say if this was meant to make it easier for parents to understand where their school is, we just don't see that because the way they put the criteria out is anything but clear and understandable by folks. So we'll know a little more tomorrow after the Board of Ed acts on the criteria that they've had in front of them. It does not have to be put in play until October of 2014 is what the legislation reads, which is why this proposal is requesting that this legislation be delayed by 3 years so we can look at revising the testing system if we're going to use growth measures to grade our school, and also look at potentially other criteria, because the criteria that we're seeing now are for elementary and middle school are only based on SOL test scores. There's no other criteria. And the high school adds in a little bit with AP scores, some industry certification, but there are a lot of other areas that our parents tell us is what they use to grade a school, and none of that is in there.
Well, and to Dr. Parrish's earlier point, there is, the SOL scores are absolutely no measure of growth. All it is a snapshot of this group that's coming through. How do they do compared to the last group that went through? And there is no growth there at all. So,
if I could just interrupt too, this is another one that there's been quite a bit of discussion in throughout the state. So you have a number of people, including me, talking to our legislators about this. Our legislators seem to have some interest in considering a delay because they understand that it was something they passed very quickly last year, and many of them were very focused on transportation issues, and this was sort of just popped into the General Assembly and they approved it. But I think you may see some legislators come out throughout the Commonwealth and say, maybe we do need to slow down and give us some time on this.
So they are already warming up?
They are warming up to it. We'll see if we actually get a bill in, but we are working with some legislators in hopes that they will. We know of at least one legislator on the peninsula who is putting a bill in requesting a 3-year delay.
So for the public, our request is that the Poquoson City School Board requests that the implementation of this legislation be delayed by 3 years. The current SOL testing system does not provide a valid and reliable assessment of student growth. Time must be taken to develop appropriate growth measures. Additionally, criteria other than student performance on tests should be considered for school grades. Parents across the Commonwealth consider factors other than student achievement when evaluating local schools. The rationale for the A through F grading system was that it would be easier for parents to identify the quality of a school, but the current state and federal accountability systems do this for parents. Schools are either accredited by the state or they are not. Schools either meet the federal measurable objectives or they do not. It makes no sense to combine two accountability systems into one grade, which require schools to meet numerous targets. After all, students receive numerous grades on each of their report cards. In addition to ensuring growth measures are appropriate, the use of multiple grades for multiple criteria should be considered. Okay. Comments or questions on this one? Sounds pretty straightforward. We're good there? Okay. The last one is the Opportunity Educational Institution. In 2013, this was established. There is already legal action being taken by which school board has the lawsuit?
The Norfolk City School Board has a lawsuit questioning the constitutionality of it.
Right, questioning the constitutionality of this particular piece of legislation. And basically, the Constitution says that the oversight of the local schools is for local personnel. And that would be us, the local school board, which is either appointed by local government officials or elected by the citizens of that locale. So our request is the OEI legislation should be repealed in light of the fact that it violates the state constitution. The Constitution provides for local controls of schools throughout the Commonwealth. So questions or comments?
Yes, sir, Dr. Carter, I do have a comment on that. I consider it to be of the utmost importance that collectively we, as the 130 some odd school systems across the state of Virginia, hold the line on the checks and balances provided in our state constitution to prevent the overreach of authority by the state government.
I agree. I think our local government officials do a fine job. They know the needs of the community. They know the resources of the community, and they put in place what is going to be best for the community. And the state government does not know that. So I agree. They would be way overstepping their bounds if they push this legislation through. Does anybody else have any comments on that?
I do agree with that. That I would like our citizens to know that most likely this is going to be handled in court. And I believe personally that this is not going to be an issue. I have a lot of faith in our court system, and so we don't want to alarm anybody that, you know, Poquoson's not being at risk of taking over. In fact, I just think this is going to be thrown out in court, and it's going to be proved that it's unconstitutional to do that. So priority-wise tonight, I like the order that these have been presented in for us, because I'm not as afraid, because I have some faith in our local government and state government and our court system.
Do you have any reservations about us passing this forward to state our position on the matter? Does anybody?
No, I have some general comments overall. I'm very pleased to see that we have this legislative agenda. I think it's a very proactive step for us. We've been debating several of these issues for many months and not taking action on any single one in the form of a resolution. And I think we feel very deeply about each of these being very important. So I think this is a positive tone rather than a negative tone. That some of the resolutions could have taken that type of venue. And I think, and I know we didn't want to jump on the bandwagon, but we certainly want to do something positive to promote our opinion. And I think we represent what a lot of other folks in Virginia represent when we're doing that. So I am actually very pleased to see us moving forward with this legislative agenda.
Thank you for that feedback, sir. Well done. Does anybody feel strongly about something that they feel should maybe be included here that's not listed? If so, let's get it out there. I thought it was, I think it's a very good start for where we are right now in the process.
I'd like to make sure it gets out there. I know we can't guarantee that it is received and read, but anything we can do to make sure that it does make its rounds, whether we bold and put in bold print our request, as opposed to everything being the same, and maybe highlight what the request is,
right,
or highlight key portions of this to say, you know, why it is that we support that certain things either be eliminated or studied or reinstated. You know, I don't know. It's just a thought. You know, we do have some relatively new legislators who might not be aware of the original purpose of SOLs. And maybe highlighting certain features would help bring it out a little bit. Put it in neon, flashing, singing telegram.
So maybe, and I hear what you're saying, maybe play with the format a little bit before we send it up the...
72-point font, more money, but something, just something to maybe better highlight some of the points we're trying to make.
Right. Yeah, something is quick and easy to read, and it jumps out.
It'll jump out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Because
so
I
we
know
can-
these people are going to be faced with a lot of paper, a lot of stuff to read, whatever we can do. I mean, these are clear and concise and a wonderful job by staff for putting them together, but even just popping them out a little bit more is just a thought.
We can certainly do that for you.
I'll agree with that thought, as long as it doesn't delay what we do by 3 months. It looks like we're not taking action
Oh,
once
no,
again.
no.
No, we're gonna.
If you
yeah.
approve this evening, we can get some of the wording changed and get the format done in the next couple days, so we should be able to send it off, next week.
And I'll give you an excellent
Or
on
we
that.
might wait till after Thanksgiving, because it might get lost in the shuffle of people's turkey dinner, so it might be we send it out December 1, But know that I can tell you I'm already in conversations about a couple of these with our local legislators, so this will be a good follow-up to some of that.
Do you think any of our legislators have taken SOL tests? Are they young enough? I was trying to think.
I don't know, but they have kids who
Not
have
ours, but
They have kids
state.
or grandchildren that will.
There have to be some in the state that have actually been
Yeah, there
SOL
are
tested.
some that would have.
They should probably present the legislation.
Okay, we good? And we'll get a,
So what we just need from you is actual, an approval of the PCPS School Board 2013 legislative agenda
Right.
as amended this evening, because we
Right,
did put a
as
couple
amended.
changes in, so that we actually have you voting on that.
Would you like me to make that motion, Mr. Chairman?
well, I was making my notes, but I'm gonna start right now. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the legislative agenda as amended?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And again, we can, if anybody has any last comments before we move forward?
I
Yes,
do.
ma'am.
I think it is very important for us to get this out there, like put it on the website or something, because I am sure that a lot of citizens are just not aware of what's going on. And this pretty much lays it out, somewhat simplistically as you can. So I really think it's important that this, I don't know, the school websites or maybe just this.
Yeah,
the
I think we
city-
can put it all, what I would envision we do is actually do a press release with this, so that it'll
That
go
would be
right under
great. That would
news,
be
and we'll
good.
send it to the
Yes.
Daily Press and our other papers, and then also we'll put it somewhere under school board. If somebody doesn't see it in the news part, they'll have a couple of places to find it, but I would envision us press releasing it.
Yeah, because a lot of, people just aren't aware until it affects them. So people need to know, well, this has come down, it'll be too late, if some of these are put into place, so.
Okay. Great. Good point. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Ms. McDowell, could you call for a vote, please?
Mr. Hux?
Aye.
Ms. Whitaker?
Aye.
Ms. Sidner?
Aye.
Mr. Melton?
Aye.
Mr. Cass?
Aye.
Chairman Carter?
Aye.
The motion passed by a vote of 6-0.
Awesome. Thank y'all very much for your work on that. It's very good. Do we have any public comment tonight?
No, sir, we do not.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Parrish, would you like to kick off our communication?
Yes, and I'm actually going to be quite brief tonight. I do, though, want to take the opportunity to recognize a few of you. You have in your, at your places, recognition from the VSBA, the Virginia School Boards Association. So Ms. Sidner and Mr. Hux were recognized with the VSBA Academy Award for Achievement. And Mr. Melton was recognized with the VSBA Academy Award for Recognition. So this is tied to your attendance at conferences and other meetings that VSBA holds. So I thank you for your continued support of our school division by attending the different events and bringing that information back for the rest of the board. I do, just a reminder, we'll be talking about budget process in our work session, but we really won't begin the budget process in earnest until we get into January, once we've seen our outgoing governor's budget and then get a sense of what's going to happen in Richmond. But we will be updating the community and staff throughout the process. And as Mrs. Colley did earlier, I just want to wish everybody a very safe and relaxing Thanksgiving weekend. I hope everybody has time to enjoy the festivities with family and friends, and we look forward to seeing everybody back in December. So I do hope it's wonderful for school board members, but also for all of our parents and students and community members.
Thank you, ma'am. Marissa?
Good evening. Poquoson Primary School has been very busy this month. The second graders took a field trip to the Virginia Living Museum as part of the Science Habitats and Animal Life Cycles unit. They had fun learning and experiencing the animals up close. First graders also got to take a trip to Yorktown battlefields as part of the Social Studies unit about life in the past. Poquoson Elementary School celebrated Thanksgiving last Thursday with over 270 guests. Poquoson Elementary School students and staff went to thank Aramark for a wonderful meal and all the friends and the families that attended. Make sure to check out the Poquoson Middle School's book fair that kicks off tonight. 8th graders are planning to take a field trip to see Catching Fire and then come back for a picnic at the middle school. The band concert will be December 5th at 7 p.m. The chorus musical will be December 5th at 7 p.m. The band concert will be December 12th at 7 p.m. and the choral concert will be December 19th at 7 p.m., all at the Poquoson Middle School. PHS will have its chorus concert on December 9th at 7 p.m. at Tab High School. The band concert will be December 11th at Tab, also at 7. After prom fundraising is on December 7th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Arts, crafts, and baked goods will be provided. PHS is also participating in Cookies Because We Care to support local military families who are not able to return home for the holidays. I would also like to say congratulations to the PHS varsity football team for a great game last Friday night and wish them good luck this Saturday as they journey into the next round.
Nice. Mr. Hux.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. No comment tonight.
Ms. Whitaker.
Yeah, just a couple things. Want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, especially to our families. We have several families who have lost loved ones this year, and this holiday season, my thoughts are with them. Also, Hanukkah begins next Wednesday at sundown, so happy Hanukkah to our Jewish friends in the community. And briefly, I just wanted to mention something that has disturbed me recently, but it is also human nature, but I'm going to go there anyway. People seem to be really big into spreading rumors, and it's not unique to Poquoson, but it's unique everywhere. And in the past few months, I have witnessed unfortunate incidences on social media like Facebook, in which somebody either complains about something or starts saying, I heard this, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows. And I am a staunch proponent of freedom of speech, so I'm not trying to quash anybody's rights on freedom of expression, but maybe just think a little bit before you put something out there. If it is something about our schools, a teacher, faculty, go through the proper channels first, and talk to your teacher, the principal, our superintendent, come to one of us, instead of putting it out there to the universe and watching it just grow exponentially. So but that's all I have to say, but thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Sidner.
No comment.
Mr. Melton.
Well, those that know me know I really appreciate our career and technical education. I attended a capabilities open house at Tidewater Community College today, saw all their 3D printing capabilities, and we toured their HVAC lab and their welding shop. And for an interesting statistic is that in the United States, we're going to need 400,000 welders in the next 5 to 8 years.
How many?
400,000 welders in the next 5 to 8, 10 years. Unbelievable amount of welders needed across
We offer
the
a
nation.
welding certificate.
We actually do offer a welding program through New Horizons.
That's right, and I was just kind of amazed at that amount of need across the United States. So it tells you that employability skills are very big. So that's my only comment tonight. So
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cast.
As we move into Thanksgiving, I just want to express again my appreciation for the staff and the teachers and the support staff and all the schools. But one thing that I feel besides the staff thanking, and I don't want to sound self-serving, so I'm going to exclude myself from this, but I want the community to know what an outstanding school board that you have. And I think everybody here doesn't serve because they enjoy long meetings and and budget talks and everything else, but they really care for the kids in this community. And I just want to compliment each and every board member and also our chairman. I can't imagine having a better leader. So really thankful for you guys.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Sproul and the band, good luck. I know you guys are going to knock it out of the park as you always do. Enjoy it, have fun, and just enjoy the moment. Okay, it's an opportunity of a lifetime, and I congratulate Mr. Sproul and the band. Definitely coming up on Thanksgiving. I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and we do have an awful lot to be thankful for. No matter how dire our circumstances may be, there's always somebody that has it worse. But I want to thank the men and women in uniform who have sacrificed, some the ultimate sacrifice over the years, to provide us with the freedoms that allow us to have so much in this country to be thankful for. So with that, I will go into see if we have any material for board review.
We have none this evening.
And we will adjourn. Happy Thanksgiving.